It's interesting to observe how hypocritical the reactions to events like the Boston bombing and Sandy Hook are. People obsess over media events, completely oblivious to how disproportionate their attention is. Normally, when talking to people in favor of gun prohibition, they'll cite events like Sandy Hook to support their argument, completely ignorant of how many people die in the United States from causes other than firearms, and how many lives could be saved if money spent on prohibition were spent on something more cost-effective. Here's some numbers from CIA.gov. The death rate for the United States is 8.39 per thousand each year. Now let's also take the population of the United States, also from CIA.gov, and do some math. About 316 million. So how many groups of 1,000 go into 316 million? Well, it's 316,000. So 316,000 times 8.39 equals 2,651,240. Divided by 365 days in a year equals 7,263 deaths per day in the United States, and 2.6 million deaths in the United States each year. So in this nation, where about 7,000 people die each day, a rare in comparison incident of a school shooting is given prime media attention and importance, with Obama gaining a lot of publicity because of his reaction to Sandy Hook and a desire to pass new gun laws. How many people actually died in Sandy Hook? Last I checked, it was 28. In return, this incident has had lingering effects for months. 28 deaths is barely even a footnote for one single day's body count. According to this article from Medical News Today, we lose around 195,000 a year due to preventable medical malpractice. That's over 500 people a day. Now let's go to FBI.gov and look at our entire murder rate, including any weapon, not limited to firearms. Our total murder and non-negligent manslaughter deaths in 2011 was 14,600. That's 40 deaths per day. So 7,000 divided by 40, all our murders and non-negligent manslaughters, including firearms and any other weapon put together, make up 1/175th of our actual deaths. This is apparently far more important than preventable medical malpractice, making up 1/14th of our total deaths, and any other large factors, which are almost entirely medicine and health related. I'm constantly told that the Western world is more civilized because we care about human life and work to preserve it, and that's what makes us better than third world nations. I was called a sociopath a number of times because I didn't seem upset when I heard about the Sandy Hook shooting, but is that really true? Are we really so much more civilized? Our disproportionate attention would indicate that the Western world doesn't care about how many people die, it cares about guns. It cares about things that are scary and look and feel threatening, regardless of whether or not that's true. Our media reactions would indicate to me that we care about sensationalism, not human life. By legalizing and taxing drugs and guns, I'd be left without having to spend money on prohibition and gaining extra revenue from both of these categories, which I could then spend on actually doing something to help people, rather than selling them a delusion that they're going to be safer while sending them off to die pointlessly from preventable malpractice. So while America is busy obsessing over our allegedly violent nation, only 1/175th of our death rate, the remainder sits unaddressed. Why? Because people care about guns. Guns are big and scary, and if something looks like it's a threat to their safety, they've concluded that it must be of prime importance, and that any other data or evidence to the contrary can be dismissed. If we were predominantly concerned with saving lives, as is claimed by many anti-gun and anti-drug advocates, we'd give much bigger focus to the vastly larger preventable medical malpractice category, or any of the other major issues. And the anti-drug advocates don't try to ban smoking, which is a major contributor to cancer, our leading cause of death next to obesity. They try to keep marijuana banned, which is by far less dangerous. People do not care about saving lives, and they do not care about having a safe society to live in. They care about guns and weed. That is the only focus. Human life is worthless. Human life has no value. The safety provided by a society has no value. The quality of life provided by a society has no value. It's all about these idols of worship. Guns, and weed. What will save more lives and benefit the health and well-being of the people isn't even factored in, because no one who is in favor of banning guns or weed can be bothered to do actual research before deciding that they have an informed opinion. People don't think, I wonder what the leading cause of death is in the United States, then go research it, then get led to the conclusion of banning guns or weed. They decide, on impulse, that guns or weed look threatening, and anecdotal evidence, or bare minimum correlation equals causation research, is sufficient to have an informed opinion beyond that point. But it doesn't stop there. This bad science is used to dictate the laws millions of people live under. It's as if I prayed to Zeus on Mount Olympus for my electricity to come back on. It did. and I then decided that this was concrete evidence that Zeus was real, and appeared before Congress and the President saying America should become a theocracy and worship the Greek pantheon. Except I'd actually be taken seriously, and this would be accepted by millions of people as evidence of the divinity of Zeus. So by what measure do we value human life? It's certainly not our efforts to save as many lives as possible. We deliberately sacrifice many to conduct a poorly executed attempt at saving a few. Is the entire point really just, we care? We care about Sandy Hook and you're a sociopath for not crying about it? We get all upset over this tragedy, and that makes us feel like we're good people. And because we want to feel like good people, that is the evidence for valuing human life? An empty emotional platitude that refuses to actually do anything to save anyone, selling people a cheap emotional feel-good pill, is the evidence of how civilized we are and how much we value human life. And I'm expected to take this argument seriously, to legitimately believe that it is more important to feel upset over a death and to feel like I've done something about it than to actually prevent it in the first place. I don't feel that I fit in well with this particular set of cultural values. Now, I'm not saying that an issue should be simply ignored because the problem is minor, but in the case where you're determining what laws people live under, how many people are going to be put in prison, and billions of dollars spent, one would assume you consider that maybe one should have priorities to determine where you dedicate your time and your resources. The way I see it is human life is one of our lowest concerns. It's emotional satisfaction and the ability to feel good about ourselves that is the primary concern. And sometimes that can be the act of saving a life, but because the ability to feel like we're saving a life is so much more important than actually saving one, the latter will readily be discarded for the former. So how can I rationalize that saving a life is given legitimate importance? It seems to me, based on our medical industry and how readily lives are sacrificed for emotional happiness, that human life is the least valuable currency in America. And I'm a sociopath for noticing, apparently. Our culture is self-destructive and has allowed for rampant corruption of the people and the government. So if it's dying, I say, good riddance. We can build a better culture. We can engineer a society where this is no longer the case. Humanity has the potential to construct a civilization that spans the galaxy. That is the future I want for the human race. I'll see you next time.